My name is Angel Brathwaite. I reside right outside of Washington, D.C. I do practice in Maryland, D.C., and Virginia. I've been a trauma therapist, which has been amazing. I kind of just fell into it. I learned everything is trauma. So it just became really natural to become a trauma therapist. And a couple years ago, I just really said, what do you want to do? I just turned 40 this year. And I said, let's do something different. Let's do something fun. So I kind of was like, before 40, what do you want to do that's different, that's exciting, that's something that you picked, you didn't fall into, and I said, sex therapy sounds awesome. And I started researching it. And my practice started shifting a little bit. I had a lot of families and adolescents, and I realized I was getting a lot of older professional women who were just very unhappy, and they were going through like life changes, whether it was a divorce or, hitting the 40s, 50s. And it came down to they weren't happy when it came to sex. And as a therapist, you think you can handle everything. But I realized I didn't have the right language. I didn't have the right, all the interventions behind me. And I was like, okay, this is coming together. This is what I'm supposed to do. And that's how I decided to become a sex therapist. My clientele started to change. I realized that a lot of women of color were not getting what they needed. They came from backgrounds and, cultural backgrounds, origin of families that sex was not a topic at all. Don't have sex until you're married, don't bring home any babies, and that was it. There was nothing about what it should feel like, what it should look like. Even the enjoyment of sex was never on the table. So I noticed that these women were like dying to talk about it. And so when they were telling me they'd reached out to different therapists or different groups, they felt so excluded. They were like, this is not for me. There are no women of color. It's just not hitting me like I needed to hit me. I really want us to be a part of this world. I want women, especially women of color, to be able to enjoy it and talk about it. It is still very taboo. So that's why I wanted to really do something about inclusion and saying there's a whole market out there that is not being tapped the way it should be. Even if it's not me, just showing them where to go or showing other sex therapists how to do that inclusion. I tell people all the time, if you don't specifically include a group, you're specifically excluding a group. So I want it to be very purposeful of including women of color. When you go to your website, I want either the Black Lives Matter or women of color on there, and you can tell they are women of color. I want to, when I send people to resources, I want them to say, oh, I can go there. So I want therapists and clinics and whoever else out there to purposely include. We always say this blanket, everyone's included, everyone's invited. When you don't consult with other Black therapists or the resources in the community, you're really not including, right? So my big takeaway is that when you do not specifically include, you're excluding. So I want them to learn how to include and make us feel, oh, this is a safe space for us. We can go. I've had a lot of clients that look and they're always like, I don't know if they can take me. I don't know if they can deal with some of the stuff that I'm going through, or they don't want to explain so much, This is a whole different world for a lot of women of color, and it's scary. They want it, clearly, but, I just want everyone to know that this is a little different and how to proceed with it. This is my first thing ever really presenting on sex therapy, with other experts, with other therapists. I've done, like I said, seminars here, and I've started, therapy, but it's just exciting for me for people to listen. I'm like, wow, especially when you've had the same specialty and expertise for 15 years, with trauma, I can spit it out. I can, it's the back of my head. So this is out my comfort zone and I like it. I'm excited. So just that part of stepping into something new. And then I do feel welcome. So I've just felt so welcomed and excited to get this going. So I think it's twofold. One, I love these conferences. I have, since day one, I have learned so much. I think the first conference I did, my mouth was probably open the entire time. I was like, what is going on? Like, I was so not in this world. So what I love is that I learn so much. So the two things that I'm excited about, one, this is so new for me and just getting me out my comfort zone and trying something different. And two, I'm excited to see what everybody else is doing. I love the learning aspect and listening. And, especially with this, my practice changing, I am taking notes left and right and just trying to make sure that I'm doing this right. So it's interesting to be able to teach and learn at the same time.